What do you get when you get a former 17-year-old general manager, a movie star, and also a person who took no prisoners on the rink and put it together with Locked On Devils? You get a great interview. I got AJ Galante, and he is here for an open hockey discussion. It's going to be a lot of fun, so buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, and also Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, Trey Matthews. And I have a very special episode for you guys today. So joining me today is AJ Galante. He is the star of the Netflix film Untold: Crime and Penalties, and he's also the former general manager of the now defunct Danbury Trashers. AJ and his story, along with his father, Jimmy, have a very compelling hockey background. Like I said, AJ became general manager of the Danbury Trashers when he was just 17 years of age, had to put his band of misfits together, and somehow, some way, he was able to make it work. I loved watching the movie on Netflix, so I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it yet. Once again, the name of the movie is Untold: Crime and Penalties. He is also a big New Jersey Devils fan, so we talk a little bit about the New Jersey Devils. We talk about his experience watching the 2003 Stanley Cup Finals and also what he's up to nowadays. He actually has a signing coming up in the next week, so make sure you check it out. That's towards the end of the episode. We talked about the documentary. We talked about him putting his team together. We talked about his personal life. We talked about all sorts of things. It was a great discussion, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So before I bring in AJ, it is time for the first live read this morning, and it comes from our friends at Built Bar. So this is the time of year that I pretty much have given up on all of my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels as though it's not really a workout because I enjoy eating them. Have you ever tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out. They're one of Built Bar's best tasting protein bars. Puffs are the first protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamon churro, coconut, marshmallow, banana cream pie. So good. These are going to be your new favorites, guaranteed. Like I said, all Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. However, they are low in calorie, high in protein. Replace your candy bars with these. They are better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. And like I said, compare that to a candy bar. Built Bars are by far the better choice, and they taste so good. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and new this month, white chocolate, cookies and cream. They are all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If you think a flavor might be good, they'll make it, and it'll be delicious, and it'll be good for you. I don't know how they do it, but somehow, some way, they make it work. So the offer is go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. And now, the second live read comes from our friends at BetOnline.net. So football might be over this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is a source for hockey, boxing, NASCAR, and UFC odds right to the Olympic coverage and information. Now that the Olympics is over, you're going to have to find something else to bet on. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Please remember to gamble responsibly and visit our friends at Locked On Bets for all your betting needs there as well. So let's talk to AJ Galante, the star of the Netflix film Untold: Crime and Penalties, former general manager of the Danbury Trashers. Like I said, for any of you who don't know his backstory, his father basically gave him the keys to the organization, wanted to give back to the community, so he purchased the Danbury Trashers. And his father also has ties to mob dealers. And just if you haven't seen the film, I highly recommend watching it. So let's get right into the interview with AJ Galante. Take it away. And now joining me for this special interview, he is the former general manager of the Danbury Trashers, and he is also the star of the Netflix movie Untold: Crime and Penalties. It is AJ Galante. AJ, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Trey. Thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate you.
Man, I just want to say I saw the movie Untold: Crime and Penalties on Netflix, and I must say I was hooked. I loved every bit of it. I loved the backstory. I loved your story with hockey. I loved the overall history of the Trashers, and despite it not really working out, I still loved the end story of how you guys just still connected with one another, how it was a family, loyalty, things of that nature, just true virtues. And for anyone who hasn't seen the documentary, where did hockey begin for you?
Well, I mean, I was born in 1986, so I think a lot of kids around my age, it started with the movie The Mighty Ducks. I'm born. I'm here in Connecticut, close to the New York border. So hockey at the time wasn't super big for us, and it was just one day. I went out to go see a movie with my mother. I remember she brought us to see Mighty Ducks. I had no idea what the Mighty Ducks was going to be about, but that kind of spurred the whole thing, man. I mean, I ended up becoming obsessed with hockey, and coincidentally, my first game was a New Jersey Devils game back in 1990. I want to say it was either 93 and 94, New Jersey Devils game at the old Continental Airlines Arena. I'll never forget it. It was against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that was it. Hockey became just such a huge part of my life after, both of those two instances.
So you said that the Mighty Ducks were a main influence on you, but something I also discovered in the documentary was that WWE was also big for you. So you were big into the fights. You took no prisoners. Is that how you just played the game overall when your father laced you up in skates?
Yeah, I mean, wrestling, even before the Mighty Ducks or hockey, wrestling was kind of my first love, almost to the point where I thought I was going to be a wrestler. I mean, I think every little kid wants to be, most kids I grew up with wanted to be, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Randy Savage, Stone Cold. It was fun. But I tell you the truth, aside from wrestling, really for me, I patterned my game after Scott Stevens, actually, from the Devils. And, he was just a rough, tough guy, always laying people out. It seemed like every time he was on the ice, he was hitting somebody. And, I mean, Scott Stevens was a god to me, man. I mean, I loved him. And, growing up, most guys want to be the scorers and stuff. I just wanted to be like Scott Stevens. I just wanted to be that stay-at-home defenseman, steady, protect the net, hit people when needed. And, I patterned a lot after him, especially as a young kid.
I love Scott Stevens. I just loved how he, like I said many times, how he takes no prisoners. I love how if you wanted to come into his blue paint, you better be prepared to fight him because he is not going to let you in with ease. And the thing is, he got a lot of penalties, but his plus minus was still very good. So you knew that he was still effective despite, racking up the penalties. And I've actually had Bryce Salvador on this show before. And, he told me that, Scott Stevens taking no prisoners, that's facts. That's just how it was in the days. Like if you wanted to come into his defensive zone and try to score on him, be prepared to fight. That's just how the game was played back then. But I've always thought that Scott Stevens and company were the bad boys of hockey because obviously the Devils aren't really the most likable franchise. There's a reason why, due to the amount of defensive units we had, including Brodeur, who was a goalie. There's a reason why there's only one forward who has his number retired, and that's Patrick Elias. So you knew the reputation that the Devils had in terms of just being a defensive unit. But like I said, a lot of people think that the Devils in that era were the bad boys of hockey. But you guys, the Danbury Trashers, were the true bad boys of hockey, despite being in the UHL. So we're going to talk about the overall team in a second. But I saw the documentary. You got injured, and unfortunately that abruptly ended your hockey career. Your father, who owned a trash place and also just got out of jail, wanted to give back to the Danbury community. So he bought the Trashers franchise, and he made you, AJ Galante, 17 years old, not even an adult yet. You were named the general manager of your dad's franchise. What was that thought process like? Because you're still a kid going to homeroom and things of that nature. Still got to worry about homework and all that. And now you got to run an organization. You got to sign paychecks. You got to put your roster together.
It was just, it was such a crazy time, man. You know what I mean? I tell people, after all these years, you'd think I'd figure a word to describe it, but I can't. It was just one of those things where, as I get older now, I mean, I'm 35 years old. As I get older now, and I kind of look back and I'm like, man, that really was insane that we were doing things. Like, it was insane that my father would do that. But, there's always a method to his madness, and it was one of those things where I think he had a lot of reasons for starting the team, but I know a focal point of it was to get me involved. Obviously, my playing career, I didn't peak too high. I was in high school, but my playing career was basically over. So it was a way that I could stay in the sport. I'm very grateful for him for the opportunity, but it was also everything with my father is very sink or swim. So it doesn't matter how old you are. If he thinks you're capable of something, he'll drop you in the deep end, and you got to find your way out, and I was blessed also. We had a great team around us. It obviously wasn't just me, but we had a great team around us, and it made things a lot easier.
Speaking of the team, let's talk about some of the players you signed. So Brad Wingfield, notoriously known for basically breaking everything from his legs to his arms, missing a finger. One Eye Willie, had dreams of playing in the NHL. Unfortunately, at training camp, someone whacked him in the eye with his stick, and unfortunately, that abruptly ended his dreams of getting to the NHL. You signed Ruben Nadur, the Nigerian Nightmare. You signed two brothers who you said kind of reminded you of the movie Slapshot, where they just basically play together, and it's like you can't separate them. It's sort of like a Beavis and Butthead kind of thing. Like, it's just like, or ever seen 22 Jump Street, where there's those two twins, and it's just like they're always in sync, and they're just hilarious. I love them. And then we'll talk about Mike Rupp in momentarily, but just talk about putting your team together, because you said that basically you're 17 years old, you don't really have that much experience in the industry, and you basically just had to do everything via a video game or by Google. You became a stat geek, as you said, and you're basically putting, like, as I would describe it, just this band of misfits together. And just it's sort of like reminding me of Moneyball, which is like you're finding guys under the radar but have great value.
Well, first of all, I think the Beavis and Butthead comparison was probably the greatest thing I ever heard. I never heard that comparison before, but that is the best way to describe those two. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm changing their names in my phone to. Beavis and Butthead. It's a perfect way to describe those two nuts. But no, man, you know what it was? Growing up, I used to study a lot from like Al Davis from the old Oakland Raiders, right? He always used to have a band of misfits, and he seemed to find a way to find, like you said, these under the radar guys that, frankly, if you could put them in the right position and you could blend them together, they could do some big things. And I know the documentary kind of highlights my kind of like my love for stats and statistical analysis and that. But honestly, it really wasn't as sophisticated as they made it seem. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those situations where, look, there was no social media. There really wasn't YouTube. So you kind of just looked at the basic statistics. Like you said, goals, assists, penalty minutes, plus, minus. I didn't try to make it too complicated. And frankly, we were looking for guys that felt underappreciative or, maybe weren't stars elsewhere. And we thought that we, with our personalities, my father, me, our whole team, we felt that we could get the most out of anyone we worked with. And that was always the goal, was to get the most. It's like squeezing that tube of toothpaste till it all comes out, man. It's like one of those things where we wanted to get the most out of guys and look for guys that were truly underdogs.
And you guys achieved that and some. But here's the thing. We talked about being bad boys in hockey, and you guys made this a T in the documentary. You said you guys took no prisoners. Your father, Jimmy Galante, aside from having a legitimate business, also had some ties with the mob and, faced some legal troubles. But at the same time, he was very big on loyalty and just standing up for your family members. And I'm going to ask you this question like they asked you in the documentary. What does the word loyalty mean to you?
Loyalty to me is now I sound like my dad in the documentary. You'd think I'd have an answer for this right away. But loyalty to me, man, is one of those things where I could have my back turned to you. I could be away from you for a year, and I know you have my best interests at heart. If we're a team, if we're a group, we're all in this together. I'm not big on the word bosses or supervisors or president or general managers. To me, we were all on the same level, just at different spectrums, right? So, to me, just because I was, in the front office, I didn't think I was any higher than, the janitor or a player, or whether a guy played one game with us or 2 full seasons with us. If you were a trasher, you were a trasher forever. And it's one of those things where, loyalty is, like you said, we all have the same mindset. We all have the same goals. And, if I'm down, I know you're going to pick me up and vice versa. And, if we start something together, we finish it together. And it's hard to define loyalty. It's such a weird thing to me because there's, in a weird way, there's like different levels of loyalty to people. But to me, it's just black and white. If I'm with Trey Matthews, I'm with Trey Matthews. That's my guy. I'm not going to say anything bad in public about him. I'm not going to, we may have disagreements, but we keep it in-house and we work out amongst ourselves. That to me is loyalty, and we figure a way for all of us to prosper, for all of us to eat.
I love that answer. And like I said, I was just curious to know because I was just touched by that scene because I remember everything my dad said. He said, even if you're 100% wrong, I still have your back,
Yep.
That kind of thing. So like,
yeah. And you just hit it on the head. That my dad always said the same thing to me. He said, look, we're not always going to agree with each other about certain things, but we keep it in house. And I'm not going to publicly, like I said, if you're on my team, we keep it in the locker room, we keep it in the offices, and we settle it one way or the other. And you don't go onto social media and start bashing somebody or going on YouTube or interviews. And to me, that's your father's right. That's one of those things where, I may tell you privately that you're wrong or I feel you're wrong, but you never do it to an outsider.
Right. Now, let's go from family and overall organization to what happened on the rink. So at puck drop, your father gives the green light to Brad Wingfield to say, hey, you put down your gloves and you beat the crap out of somebody. And that was basically your guys' identity. You were notoriously known for getting into fights, like gloves come off, blood everywhere, teeth missing, someone's out with an injury, penalties, fines. It got so bad that Richard Brosel, the commissioner, basically threatened saying, if this keeps on going, your fines are going to get heftier and heftier and heftier. And your father was just like, you know what? I'm just going to pay you in advance because because we're not going to stop. What was it about your identity just saying, hey, we're just going to drop the gloves and we're going to play smash mouth physical brand of hockey?
Well, listen, at the time, I mean, I sound like an 80-year-old man when I talk like this, but back in those days, intimidation played a huge role in sports. I don't care what anybody says. Do I think it's like that now? Maybe not. And I'm not just talking about hockey. I mean, it's all sports. I mean, the intimidation factor, our goal was legally, obviously, any advantage we can get to psychologically beat our opponent where they just don't want to come to the rink. They know that we have enough skill to beat you on the scoreboard, but at the same time, we got enough toughness on that depth chart to make it a long night for you. I mean, it was one of those things where we controlled the chessboard. If we decided, hey, we're going to make this a physical game, you have no choice. If we decide, hey, you know what? Everyone's going to save their knuckles tonight. We're just going to play it straight. Our job was, my dad always taught me that control is an illusion. We don't have control over a lot of things, whether we think it or not. But the things you can control, you find a way to control that chessboard. And to us, we put together a team and an identity and a psyche that our players bought into and our marketing group bought into. to the point where we almost controlled how the game was going to be. If it was going to be a smash mouth game, you had no choice. If it was going to be just a finesse game, well, that's, you know, it was probably a breath of fresh air for them, but that's how it was going to be. We just had, it was just a perfect mix of players. Our front office, the fans bought in. It was just one of those things, Trey, where the lightning just struck. It just, everything just blended so perfectly for us that we were able to execute everything that we had hoped.
Speaking of Wingfield, he got his leg broken by an opponent, and he was out for a significant amount of time. There was talk saying like he probably will never play the sport of hockey again, but he was determined to get back onto the rink, and he just said, I can only decide when I'm done. He comes back, makes a triumphant return, let's just say. Unfortunately, like you said, I can't find it anywhere. I've tried. But let's just say it was malice in Danbury that night when he returned because he wanted vengeance. He was a shark in the water smelling blood. He wanted revenge on the person who broke his leg. And you guys even took it a step further because, like we said, your dad does not take any prisoners. And he was like, hey, I know where he lives. You just give me the word and he's gone. Or, you know, in terms of just like being hurt, let's just say in that regards. But you guys like just had this like just identity of just like of just being physical, and the fans loved it because I presume that Section 102, which was your guys' fans' identity, they loved every single moment of it. You guys were putting Connecticut on the map in terms of professional sports because they're known as more of a college town kind of thing. Just, you know, it's just, and that Wingfield story was just, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, whoa. I was like, yeah, they're not playing around. These guys are legitimate.
Well, you know, when, you know, Brad, he was technically our first signing. A lot of people think it was Brent Gretzky, but he was our first public signing, Brent Gretzky. But our first signing was Brad Wingfield. And that kind of set the tone for the team we were looking to produce. And, man, you talk about a leader. You know, I know he, you know, if you do a lot of research on Brad, he's had a lot of unfortunate incidents, a lot of crazy incidents in hockey, you know, fighting, you know, the goon stuff, people call it. But he was the locker room leader. I mean, bringing it back to wrestling, he was the Undertaker. He didn't say much, but everyone followed his lead. And, yeah, when he went down, that was a huge blow to us that first season. And we really rallied around trying to win it all for him because it was such a horrible injury, horrible. And you know what? Like you said, and like he said, he was determined to get back. There was no way I thought he'd ever get back. I mean, also, it wasn't like he was in his 20s at the time. I mean, he was a little older in hockey standards, and doctors were just like, I mean, there's such a small percentage chance he could come back. And I mean, he stayed at our house that summer, that off season. I would watch him. I'd have to bring him to physical therapy, and you know, I would just watch him, and it was grueling. I mean, it was there was a few times I had to turn away just looking at his face. He was one of the toughest guys I've ever met, and just a grueling rehab. And sure enough, he you know, he got the get back, as they say, and he was not. There was, after a few sessions, as bad as it was, I realized, man, he's gonna get back one way. He's gonna get back one way or the other, and he was just the epitome of being a trasher. You know, taking away hockey. I mean, people use the word adjective now, trasher. Like, he's a trasher. You know, he is the epitome of what a trasher was supposed to always be about.
And rewinding a little bit, you talked about Gretzky's little brother, Brent, and how he was the first captain of the organization, basically just to put it out there. But here's something I wanted to ask you. So you're 17 years old. You're general manager of a team. You have to do this press conference. You guys are being featured in all sorts of media, ESPN, NBC, you name it. Like, this was you even said it yourself, you were like the LeBron James of hockey because you're just a kid and you're being given so many adult responsibilities. You made a bang by bringing in Wayne Gretzky's brother to be your first captain and just, give yourselves more of an identity. But I just want to know, how are you feeling like doing all this? Like, just how did you balance between that in school and also personal life and things of that nature? Like, because I couldn't imagine doing that at 17. You're not even an adult yet in the eyes of society.
To be very honest with you, when I knew this was for real, because I thought my dad was joking when he first brought up about the Trashers and me being involved and all that. When I realized it was for real, I realized I didn't have a choice. This is what I have to do. I gave my dad my word I was going to do this, and that's it. And you know what it is, man? It's one of those things where no matter how young you are or old you are, sink or swim. When you find yourself in a situation, I wasn't thinking about it. At 35, like I said, now I look back and I'm like, how did we do this? But at the time it's almost like you have no choice. It's like, listen, well, this is what we're doing now. So I could either sit and cry about it or we got to figure out how to do it. And it wasn't easy. I mean, there was many times during intermissions I was doing a paper or schoolwork. And then there'll be times I was in class doing hockey stuff, and it was a very weird 2 years of my life where everything was so scrambled, but I found in life where sometimes you're faced with, whether it's a job, an obstacle, adversity, you find a way. And I really wasn't thinking about my age. All the guys we worked with, I knew I was a young kid. I knew that I probably wasn't going to be taken seriously at first, especially. But these guys treated me like an equal to them. They didn't treat me any different. They didn't treat me like a kid, really. I mean, we'd have jokes here or there, but, I wasn't really thinking at the time, hey, I'm a teenager. You know what I mean? I just felt like I was one of the guys, as weird as that sounds. And, the only time my age really showed is after games where we'd be playing PlayStation. I'd be beating them all, and they'd all be getting mad at me. But you know what? That was my on-the-job training was EA Sports. So, that's the only time my age really showed to them is when I'd be scraping them in video games. They used to get so aggravated with me, but good times.
That's how I learned hockey, just by playing the video games nonstop, just learning the rules and regulations. So that's how I get some of my terminology, whatever the case might be. So, I related to you on that level, just in terms of like video games and just trying to learn the sport of hockey or trying to build your franchise within that spectrum of just trying to just learn the game more. So let's talk about Mike Rupp, former New Jersey Devil, scored the game-clinching goal in the 2003 Stanley Cup Finals for any of my older New Jersey Devils listeners. You brought him on board when the 2004-2005 NHL season was canceled. And I was just like, he got Mike Rupp, like I said, scored the game-clinching goal in the Stanley Cup Finals to play for your organization. Tell me about that experience.
Well, you talk about just like a weird situation. I mean, I was in the stands. I was at the Continental Arena when we played the Ducks in 2003, and we won the Cup. And it was literally right in front of me where we were sitting, where Rupper scored the clinching goal. And to see the Stanley Cup in person in New Jersey was such a bucket list thing for me. We had won in '95, won in 2000. I was going to games then, but I never saw the Cup. And the Stanley Cup's the greatest trophy in sports, right? So to see it live was so cool for me. And again, Mike Rupp was if he wasn't a rookie, he was a very young player. And flash forward a year and a half later, we had the Trashers, and I'll be very honest with you. It wasn't my initial idea to bring in Mike Rupp. It was somebody just kind of put together a list of potential NHL players during the lockout. And when I saw his name, I told my dad, I was like, this is the guy. We went to the game together, and I was like, Dad, remember this guy was the one who won the Cup for us. And he ended up making it happen. And, it was what a great guy. I mean, he was an NHL player, but, he didn't think he was above anyone. He came to the games, and he played hard. I mean, he played like he was a young up and coming kid. You know, he was playing hard for us, and he put up a lot of big points and stats for us and things like that. So it was just such a blessing to have him, to meet him. He's such a humble individual, and you know, he's the best. It was great to have him with us.
Yeah. So you signed him with the intent of possibly winning the championship. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Some things went down with your father and his ties with the mob. For anyone who doesn't know, he had ties to the Genovese crime family mob, and unfortunately, it did result in the downfall of the Trashers organization, and everything was shut down. And unfortunately, that's when it all just came crashing and burning. But you know, you said that after that experience of just having the highs of highs, you know, you being 17, making your own team, having fun, taking no prisoners, bringing in your middle school coach to be your equipment manager and basically helping you out and things of that nature. Just everything that you've been through, it just unfortunately came to a halting end. You got a job as doing blue collar work. You just said it wasn't you, but now you're a boxer promoter, and you actually went back to the place where you guys played your home games. And are you at peace with what happened now? Because, you know, I know that feeling of just like having a bad experience with a place, then going back to it, and this time it's for a good reason, and it's just like so cleansing, and just like now you're at peace with it. Now when you think of it, you don't think of the bad, you think of the good times. The bad are there, but you know, like what just basically catch us up on everything that happened after that.
Yeah, I mean, losing the team, I mean, you talk about, you know, we literally, you know, we lost in the finals, and then a week later, there's indictments, there's arrests, and we lost the team. So, like, it just goes to show you how fast things in life can happen. I mean, we went from, like, a super high to a super low. And honestly, man, I mean, you hit it on the head. I mean, the few years after losing the team were very tough times for me on a personal level. I mean, you know, my dad was in prison, obviously. You know, a lot of things changed for me. You know, I had to finish my last 2 years of college, and but you know, there used to be a saying when I was growing up that I used to hate, but then it came back to be so true, that time heals all wounds. And it's amazing because I think this documentary came at the right time, because so much time has passed at this point where, yeah, there's a lot of ugly to the story. I mean, but frankly, anyone could Google it and read for themselves. But to do the documentary, I'm happy we did it, because it's just such a cool thing for me and my father to share, you know, this legacy. And man, I tell you, it was nerve-wracking, you know, the week before the doc came out, because you're like, oh God, how are people going to respond to this, and how are people going to react to us? And man, I got to tell you, usually it's always 50-50, but we've gotten so much love and support from it. And I think it was the timing. Had this come out 6-7 years ago, it might be a little different, but so much has passed. And I think people, you know, obviously there's negative points to it, but I think people are recognizing, because of all the time that's gone by, especially locally, I think a lot of people are kind of recognizing more of the positives that, you know, came from the Trashers, and, you know, helping lay the foundation for a hockey culture here, you know?
Yeah, and one of those people that loved the documentary and also you got the attention of was pop sensation Drake, like the rapper. Like, he reached out to you and was like, hey, man, I need a Trashers jersey. I was like, you got Drake. To like, I love Drake. I listen to him all the time when I work out. He's always one of my top artists at the end of the year. But it's just like you got Drake, a Canadian legend, to reach out to you and ask for a Trashers jersey. What was that experience like? I saw you talk about it on Barstool, but I want you to talk about it here right now.
Man, I to tell you the truth, man, I'm on my phone. I mean, that's the frame right there. The blue frame you see right here, that was the jersey, because you know, he had reached out to me the day after the documentary had dropped. And again, to be honest with you, Trey, man, I didn't expect the doc to blow up. I guess I feel I'm a humble person. I feel weird saying the doc blew up, but frankly, it did. None of us expected it. And a guy like Drake to reach out is insane. And, again, you talk about a humble individual, really cool guy, and, he said to me, hey, man, I want a jersey. And, at the time I didn't have any jerseys. I mean, I wish I was prepped a little to have jerseys ready to sell or something, but I remembered, I'm like, hey, I still got my original jersey, when they did the transfer prototypes. I'm like, you know what? I got that jersey in my office here at the boxing gym, framed. We ended up breaking the frame, and you know what? You find a way to, again, sink or swim. Sometimes you get one opportunity, and you know what? We were able to make it happen, get it to him. But he never told me he was going to post it on his Instagram or anything like that. And when he did that, I mean, that was the same week the documentary came out. I mean, you talk about a perfect storm. It blew up from there, man. It's been insanity ever since.
That's insane. Like, I couldn't imagine. Like I said, I love Drake. I listen to his music all the time. His songs are always atop of my playlist. Love his albums. And just the fact that he reached out to you personally saying he wanted a jersey because, he was a fan of the documentary and what you guys represented. That had to be that so surreal. I know you just described it, but it's just like I would be numb to this day, quite honestly. That's amazing.
I mean, I tell you what, man, it was one of those things where I don't get starstruck often. You know what I mean? That's just the type of guy I am. But when I spoke with him, I was just like, this is so crazy that this guy even took the time to watch it. I was like, the documentary is 80 minutes long. Where in his life he has a free 80 minutes to watch something like this? I was just shocked, and it was the week his album was coming out, so just super crazy. But again, man, I got to tell you, just such a humble guy. I'm just so happy for his success because I saw firsthand just. Humble's a big thing for me. He was just super humble, and I'm just so happy he's had the success he's had because people like that deserve it.
And speaking of humble, you continue to give back to your community, and your PR agent told me that you are doing a signing within the next upcoming days. So for any of my fans who are in the New Jersey area, where can they meet you? Because I'm sure a lot of them want to get your autographs, ask questions, and just hear about your story more in detail. Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm really excited, man. I'm going this Sunday. So this coming Sunday, me and Mike Rupp are going to be at Sports Minded Unlimited. God, I'm afraid to say this town or city because I think I forgot. It starts with an E. It might be Elizabeth, but I'll let you know for the pod, man. It's Sports Minded Unlimited, and me and Mike Rupp are going to be there from 1 to 4. Meet the fans, do some signings. We were able to supply the store with some limited edition Trashers merch, so there'll be some Trashers stuff for sale. It's been hard to keep up with the demand. We haven't put too much merch out, but yeah, definitely Sports Unlimited will definitely have a lot of exclusive merch there. And like I said, it's just super humbling. I like going to Jersey because I'm a Devils guy, so hopefully I see all my Devil fans out there. It's a free signing. If you're a Ranger fan, it's $50. But other than that, it's all good, man.
I like that. Charge the Rangers fans extra. I love that. So,
yeah, Rangers. Listen, one of the first times I ever cried over sports was in '93 when Stephane Matteau scored that game-winning goal against the Devils to send them to the finals against Vancouver. Ever since then, I have a rival, just by default, but I'm just kidding about charging $50 for the Ranger fans. Maybe just $10, but I can't let you go without something.
I love that. But what you said in 1993, 6 years before I was born, so I don't remember it firsthand. But I've seen the highlights. So
yeah, it was a bad night. It was a bad day. I cried like a baby, so I'll never forget that night.
I find that very, very entertaining. Now, AJ. You say you're a Devils guy now. Before we wrap up, are you keeping up with them right now? Is there a player you currently like on the team? I personally like Sharon Govich. I know they're struggling right now, but still, it's like gotta remain loyal to the home team. Is there a player you have your eye on now, as they are just they're one of the youngest teams in the NHL?
Well, definitely. I mean, I'm a Devils through and through. And, when we lost the Trashers in '06, to be honest with you, I stopped watching hockey altogether. I didn't start watching hockey again until about 2 years ago when Netflix started filming this doc. And I'm like, you know what? I might as well get back into it. And clearly we're in a rebuilding mode. I mean, we got the kid Jack Hughes. I do like Sharon Govich. My favorite, I got to say, and I know he's been injured this year, but Miles Wood is my type of guy. That's a trasher right there. I like Miles Wood. Really, really gritty guy, could do it all. That's a guy, when I first started watching hockey again after all those years, he just stuck out to me right away. I'm like, oh, Miles Wood, this kid, 44, I think he is. I think he is. I could be wrong. But, and I've talked to PK Subban on a few occasions over Instagram and stuff, and really cool, humble dude. But Miles Wood, that's my type of player. So I'm hoping he can come back from injury. And you know what? We're in rebuild. The Devil fans, you got to be, it's tough. I see it from a GM point of view. Fans get frustrated, but a GM has to think about today and tomorrow. He can't just think solely about today. So they're in a rebuild mode, and you just got to trust the process. And before you know it, we'll be back up top there.
I love that. And I kind of anticipate for you to say like Miles Wood or maybe Gearston or, just like those gritty.
Oh, Gearston. I like the kid Gearston. Yeah, definitely him too.
I think he's a bit of a bonehead. I think he gets into unnecessary fights, but you're right. That's a trasher right there. So I can't really fault him for that. That's how he just I liked how he stood up for Jack Hughes against the Seattle Kraken earlier this year. So can't really fault him. That's just how he feeds his family. So once again, AJ, thank you for taking the time to do this. Where can my listeners find you in terms of social media?
Thank you so much, man. And again, to my Devil fans, hope to see you this Sunday. And I'm hoping to catch a game. I haven't been to a game I haven't been to a Devils game since Game 7 of the 2003 Stanley Cup Finals. So I'm hoping to get back there.
They're like $10. I'm sure they're like $10.
I haven't been to the Prudential Center yet, so I'm hoping to get there soon. And thank you, Trey, for having me, man, and all the best. Wishing you the best always.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Get the tickets now. They're only like $10. So
and that would be a good time. That's for sure.
Not expensive. All right, AJ Galante, everybody, star of the Netflix film Untold Crime and Penalties and former general manager of the Danbury Trashers. Once again, huge thanks to AJ Galante for taking the time out of his busy day to do this interview. The pleasure is always mine. Check out his documentary on Netflix, and also check out some of his other ventures, including boxing. He has a signing with Mike Rupp this upcoming Sunday. So if you're in the New Jersey area and if you're close to the facility, please go out and see him. And he's a very nice guy. Get his autograph, talk to Mike Rupp, and try to bid on some Trashers gear because, like he said, some of that stuff is rare, and I don't know if it's ever going to come up in the market anytime soon. So once again, thank you to AJ for taking the time to do this interview. I really appreciate it, and it was a great discussion. As for today's episode, guys, that's about all the time I have for you. So continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Once again, thanks for listening.